One questionable activity my old friends and I would partake in when we were young was ding-dong ditch, where you run up to someone's door, knock or ring the bell, then run away or hide. We'd do it from time to time when we were feeling mischievous or bored. At the time, someone moved across the street from my friend Stefan, who lived a block down from me. He kept telling us how sketchy it seemed. No one would ever see them leave their house, the blinds were always closed at every window, and there were never any lights on. Yet there was always a red Toyota pickup truck in the driveway all hours of the day. No one really seemed to know who was living there or what they looked like. So one night we thought it would be a good idea to target it while we were out ding-dong ditching. My friend Jake and I hid behind a nearby car while Stefan ran up to the door. We could tell he rang the bell like 5 times, and we chuckled because of it. He finally ran for cover in a bush separating that property from the neighboring property. We waited for the door to open, but alas, it never did. So Stefan ran back to the door and rang it a bunch more times, probably closer to like 10 rings this time. As he ran for his same hiding spot, I noticed the curtains to one of the front windows move a little bit. I didn't see anyone's face, but that confirmed someone was inside the house. The door never opened, but Jake and I were afraid to yell over to him not to do it again. Stefan never looked over at us, so he never even gave us a chance to wave at him to stop there. He waited half a minute before going back to the door. But I swear, before he could even ring the bell, the door pulled open, and all Jake and I saw was someone's arm reach out from the house to grab Stefan. He screamed a high-pitched scream like a girl. Jake and I looked at each other with horrified looks on our faces. Stefan managed to break free from the grip, and continued screaming as he ran past us across the street to his house. The front door to the house slammed shut. No one came out chasing after us. We followed Stefan to his house, and as soon as we got inside, I told him that was a horrible idea. Now that person would know they were neighbors. But he said he didn't care. He told his parents about it, who at first were mad at us, but sounded a bit concerned after some explaining about the aggressive way the man inside the house tried pulling him in. Still, neither of his parents wanted to go knock on the door, considering we were ding-dong ditching after all. Jake went home. I stayed over Stefan's house to sleep over. His parents always complained about us being too loud after they went to sleep, so we hung out in his backyard. We were playing Pokemon on our DSs for a while and talked more about what happened across the street. He said he didn't see much of the man's face and he was pretty well hidden behind the door, but he could tell it was a man by his veiny hands and strength. The man grabbed him by the collar of his shirt, so Stefan was able to free himself from the man's grip pretty easily. At some point while in the yard, I remember hearing a thump kind of noise. But I didn't even feel like it was worth bringing up to Stefan. I just made a mental note of it, and maybe he did too, who knows. Eventually it got too chilly to sit outside anymore, and we were getting a little tired, so we went back inside. We noticed it was a lot chillier on the first floor than it had been before we went outside. Stefan realized why fairly quickly. The sliding dining room window was open all the way, and a breeze of cold air was pouring in, but his parents definitely didn't open that. Something wasn't right. There was the sound of a footstep or something falling on the carpeted floor above us, in Stefan's room. It set him off screaming for his parents. The house has a very open layout, so of course they heard him and came rushing out of their room, confused and worried as hell. We pointed at the open window, then said someone's in his room upstairs. His dad ran downstairs to grab the biggest kitchen knife they had and ran back upstairs as we all waited in fear for something to happen upstairs. His mom hugged us and tried to comfort us while she called the police. Stefan's dad started to scream. Not like a scared scream or a scream out of pain, but more so an angry scream. We waited downstairs until the cops showed up, and they went up to Stefan's room. What actually happened is so disturbing. As anyone could guess, the breaking point was the window. Stefan's dad checked his son's room and heard something in the closet. Upon opening it, someone tried to lunge at him, but he immediately got one good stab in the person. What we found out minutes later was that it was the neighbor from across the street. How we knew was because Stefan instantly recognized the white sleeves he was wearing and the scab on his hand. The man was as scary looking as we imagined. Stefan's family got a restraining order against the man and refused to live across the street from him any longer. They moved within a few months to a house in the same town. This is a story that happened a few days ago. My friends and I really like to do some crazy things such as ding-dong ditching, which is what we were doing on Friday night. I'll refer to my friends as C, B, E, A, and Ben. There was this one corner house on an opening to a cul-de-sac. My friend E said I should ring the bell, so I did it because I was not the kind of person to not do something just because I might get in trouble for it. So I walked up to the stoop and knocked on the door and ran. We ran maybe 3 houses down behind a car so we could still get a good view of the house we just did. The guy came outside, walked around, and I think spotted either myself, E, or Ben, so he screamed "hey" at us, and we ran like normal if this happened. We all laughed it off like we usually would. Then we all agreed like a bunch of idiots that we would do the same house again. So we walked around the street to the house, and we all debated who should ring. I didn't because I just did like the last 3 houses, so we all agreed Ben should do it. So there went Ben up to the door, knocked, and ran. C, B, and A were on the corner of the street along with Ben after he rang, while me and E were behind a car right across the street from the house. It was like he was waiting right at the door, because only about 5 seconds after Ben rang the bell, he came sprinting outside. He got to the bottom of his driveway and screamed, "Hey, come here now." That was my cue to run, so I sprinted as fast as I could to the corner and around the block. I kept on sprinting until I caught up to Ben, C, A, and B. We had walked about the whole street gathering our thoughts when A pointed out that E was missing. We all looked at each other, obviously very worried for him. We called him and he picked up out of breath and was demanding us to go back to the house because he was chasing him. So we went about halfway down the street, still on the phone with E, and then he dropped the bomb. The man had a gun. We knew this because E said he heard the man scream, "I'm gonna blow your fucking brains out." I actually began to tear up, and we were all very worried for E. After about 5 minutes of E telling us to go back to the house, we made it to A's backyard and waited for E to make it back. He was saying he was very close, so we walked out of the backyard and there he was. We all hugged him and were so grateful he was okay. We all went to A's backyard afterwards to talk about what happened. The first thing E said was that he got the whole thing on video, so he showed us.
Hey, come here now! Come here now! Come here!
So what happened that I was completely unaware of was that when I ran away from behind the car, the man started chasing me. Then E apparently got up and ran the opposite way, kind of putting the man in a pickle as to who he wanted to go after. He chose E, and he ran from him almost all the way down the street before hiding under a car until he felt it was safe to run back. This was the most insane night of my life, and I couldn't thank E enough, because if it weren't for him, who knows what that guy would have done to me if he had caught up. I was a very sheltered child, and I didn't really start going out until college, really. High school, I kind of never really went out much, so when the opportunity to do something slightly rebellious came about, I would jump on it. My cousin Rob, who was infinitely cooler than me, would hang out with me in my days before college. He'd always be down to go out and get into trouble. There was this one time he called me and told me to meet him at his house. We'd be going ding-dong ditching. I brought along my flashlight just because it was dark and there weren't many streetlights in my old neighborhood. He also brought along 2 walkie-talkies and handed me one. Houses were also a little further between than your typical suburb. Rob led the way down the road, yelling things, hitting stop signs with his hands. He always had a lot more energy than me. We veered off the street and cut through some trees onto someone's property. There was nothing but a single walkway lamp on. No lights on inside or outside the house. Rob told me to run around back and wait for his signal to ring the backyard bell. He was trying to make the homeowner run back and forth, not knowing where to go. We tested the walkie-talkies and they were all good. I waited in the backyard of this property. It was extremely dark and quiet back there. To be honest, I was really scared. Rob gave the go-ahead to ring right after he rang the bell a bunch of times. I rang it twice, then ran for cover behind a bush. I waited in that bush and walkie-talkied Rob, seeing if anyone had come out front. Negative. I told him it was looking the same in the back. After a minute, he told me to go to the back door. I looked into the huge back window to see if I could see inside. There was this tall-looking piece of furniture right in front of the window, and there was this red flashing light in one corner of the room. That was about all I could see. Rob rang the bell a bunch of times again. I heard it from where I was crouching. It was my turn. I rang the bell a couple times, which yes had a different sound so you could distinguish the two. I ran back to my bush and waited again. Rob said over the walkie-talkie that nothing was happening. It was the same on my end. Why wasn't anyone answering? But I did think I could see something moving from inside the window though. Something small. I told Rob over the walkie-talkie. He said I should just check it out with my flashlight. So, trying to be cool, I did. I flicked on the light as I got closer to the back window, and when the light shone through the window, it revealed that tall object on the other side of the window wasn't a piece of furniture. It was some creepy-looking smiling man, and the thing I saw moving was his waving hand. He walked away from the window at an unsettlingly quick speed and arrived at the back door. He opened it and started approaching me with this horrific speed-walking kind of pace, as he was asking me to come inside. I dropped the walkie-talkie and screamed and ran for Rob. He met me in the front of the house, and we saw the man from the back quickly approaching the two of us in the same speed-walking pace. What made it even worse was he didn't say anything else. We ran back to Rob's house, whose parents were already asleep. We were catching our breath in his basement when the beep of the walkie-talkie went off. There was a breathing from the other walkie-talkie, then an old man's voice whispering, "Where are you kids? I'm not gonna hurt you, I just want to give you your walkie-talkie." The fact that the frequency was reaching us in a basement meant he was close. That was the scariest part. We turned off the walkie-talkie out of fear and turned off all the lights. In case you're thinking this was some sweet innocent man trying to be nice, there's no chance. He was literally chasing us, and he had this look about him that screamed child predator. We were young, but we were definitely smart enough to realize he may have been after us because of our age. We never told our parents though, because they would have grounded us just for going out ding-dong ditching. It was just a disturbing memory we'd have to deal with. We were lucky we got away okay though.